Hello. I never know how to start these. I feel like that's where I just get awkward. But what's up? um yeah, I've been thinking a lot about thinking and just the cycle that sometimes we go through of overthinking and then reaching a place of peace and a place of love and that unconditional acceptance. And yeah, going back and forth between the chaos and the peace and trust, and having those cycles where we lose ourselves in our emotions or we lose ourselves in the experience, lose ourselves, only to then come back to center and come back to those states of deep presence. And for the longest time, I'd always see that as a bad thing. I'd be like overthinking, like, why can't I just be in that state of peace? Like, like beat myself up over the fact that how many times I've meditated to get to this point and I'm still here. I'm still struggling to be in presence. I'm still struggling to be one with myself after all this practice, all this time. And the funny thing is, I recently realized that the thinking mind and the chaos served just as important of a purpose as being in alignment and in presence. Just as important. And what I mean by that is those moments of chaos, of fear, of the thinking mind allow us to experience peace, to experience the contrast, to surrender, because there would be nothing to surrender to if we never were in those places. And thinking does serve a purpose. I feel like there are moments when we're overthinking, but we get to that conclusion that brings us peace. We get to that acceptance that brings us peace. And we wouldn't have been able to get there if it wasn't for that loop, that spiral, that fear-based thinking. And I just think as we get older and older and more experienced and more thoughtful about being in presence and catching ourselves, in moments where we're dysregulated, our nervous system is on fire, and it's time to slow down, slow our breath, and sit with ourselves. That becomes nature. That becomes easier as time goes on. And your neural pathways are reprogrammed over time, just like habits are built. It's all the same. I think sometimes spiritual teachers or people in the spiritual community, they stick by the one source of truth. However, there's so many places of knowledge that you can refer to for healing, like somatic movement and energy work is just as important as biohacking and EMDR and all of these beautiful tools that exist to bring us to states of deep presence, emotional and physical regulation, and peace. So yeah, I feel like this conversation has been a bit more of my analytical side of things, but I felt like I should share that thinking is not always a bad thing, and that we need it to survive. We need it for this life. I think it's about how you manage it and how you manage the thinking mind. Because the truth lies in the present moment. The truth always lies in the present moment. But you can't discover that truth and that presence without the latter, without the fear, without the chaos, without the discomfort. And that everything will be okay. Just be patient with yourself in this process. Because you're doing, without you realizing it, if you're forcing yourself, I must be in present, I must be in this state of enlightenment, that's egoic. You're forcing yourself, you're beating yourself up if you're not there, when you're just being human. And it's more so about acceptance of those places and allowing when we're in those places. That is the enlightenment. Yeah. Love you guys. I know there's not a lot of you watching right now, but when I talk, I feel it in my soul. Like, I feel like there's all these people, all these souls that I can reach and that I can help and I can soothe and I can befriend. And I just feel that so deeply. So whether this is just out somewhere in the ether or not, I hope it helps somebody.